Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek Jain, and through this video I'm going to start a new tutorial series where I will be covering all the basics concept required to build a AI agent with the help of a Python programming language and the large language models which are available for us to use without paying anything. And most of the time I'll be using Quinn 2.5 coder because that is dedicatedly trained for coding assistance. So before we start, just precisely understand what is AI agent and how it is different from the automation which we used to do almost on a daily basis. So AI agent is nothing but it's a software program that uses the artificial intelligence to perform a task autonomously. It perceives its environment, make decision, and take the actions to achieve a specific goal. An example is like autonomous vehicle, chatbot, recommendation system, virtual assistant, right? Whereas automation, we are pretty much aware that we have a rule-based, program which actually perform the repetitive tasks with a very less manual intervention. Whereas in an AI agent, we don't need any kind of human intervention to run them, right? So this is just a basic difference between AI agent and the automation. Now, let's get into the setup which we need for follow along with this tutorial series. So the very first thing which you will be needing is OLLAMA, right? So what is OLLAMA? OLLAMA is a desktop type application. You can install on Windows. If you have I have already published one video. You can get the link on the right top and you can just follow along. It's very simple installation process. It's pretty much like any other application you install on a Windows machine, right? So what OLLAMA does is OLLAMA actually help us, to run any large language model which is available to the OLLAMA website. So I have already downloaded. It's pretty much straightforward. All you need to do is just go to the OLLAMA, get the model name, and just run the command like OLLAMA run Quinn 2.5 coder 1.5 billion. So I'm running this one, but whenever you are going to run for the very first time, what it does is if it is not downloaded, it is first going to download the entire package and it's going to run for you, right? So that's the very first dependency which you need. So once you get this message, send message, it's up and running. The next thing which we want is we need a OLLAMA Python client. So for that, it's a very straightforward dependency installation. You have to just install, you have to use the pip command to pip install OLLAMA, right? So once that is done, then all you need is you are all set to just write a Python program, a very simple Python program. I have already written that so that we can save some time here. So I'm going to create my first AI agent, right? So what this is going to do, it is going to make a request to the large language model, which is Quinn 2.5 coder running in my local, right? And it is going to create a Python code for us. So the program looks very straightforward. This is what we have. So we are importing a OLLAMA. Then we are saying, okay, which model name we want to make a request. So we know our model is running is Quinn 2.5 coder 1.5 billion. The next, I just created a very simple method, right, which says interact with OLLAMA, and it is accepting two parameters, model name and the prompt. Prompt is nothing but the kind of query whenever we interact with any large language model for ChatGPT. So we raise our, we send a request as a form of a query that actually get fed to the system where it gets converted into the some vectors. I don't want to get into that detail, and then it send it to the models where it just give you the response. But anyway, that is not something which we should be worried about in this particular video. Now we have this generate method for OLLAMA. What it requires a model name and the prompt. So prompt is nothing but what precisely we want our LLM to respond back to us. So it's a very straightforward response, and whatever response we're going to get, we are going to return that by just stripping out. So what strip means, we are just, removing all the leading and the trailing space from the response. Next is workflow orchestration, right? This method where we will be calling this interact with OLLAMA. And to call this program, what we need two parameters, model name and the prompt, right? So the code prompt is, this is where we are actually writing what precisely we want our large language model to respond. So I'm saying write a Python function to calculate the factorial of a number. Generated response is equal to, then we are calling this method by feeding in the model name and the code prompt which we just created. And whatever response we are getting, we are just printing that out. Why I'm printing it out? So that I can show you how we get a response, what kind of response we get, whether we can execute that code as is or not, right? So if everything is good, and then this is just a standard Python way of executing any method from the same file. So I'm saying our name is main. If we are directly executing this Python file, then this method needs to be executed, which is internally going to trigger this interact with OLLAMA, right? Okay, so we are all set to run my first AI agent paper. Now it says it is making a request to the Quinn 2.5 coder. If we really need to see what's going on, we can just go back to the OLLAMA log as well, if that is really something which you have an interest in. So now we can see generated code. We can see this, right? But this thing we cannot directly execute, right? Because we have a lot of content. You can see we are getting this generated code. Then we have this 3 single tick. Then we have Python, and then we have an actual code block. And then at the end, we have some kind of final thoughts from the large language model. So what does it mean? Whatever response we're going to get from the large language model, we have to parse that, right? So for parsing it out, I have just write us another program. So what I'm going to do right after this, I'm going to copy this. So what it does, it's extract the Python code from the response. So whatever response we are going to get from the large language model, we have to feed into this method. What this method does is it's utilize the regular expression module of Python, right? And then it's just extract. So first what it does is try to look at for the Python, where the Python is starting, like single 3 tick and the Python, which we can see, which is the starting point for the code block. And then the last single 3 tick says that, okay, now there is the code block is ending. And in between, we are just extracting all the values, right? And then, we are just searching for the same pattern, which we have defined here, so that we can just get only the code blocks. And then we are just stripping out the same thing. And now what we have to do is, let's copy this so that we can have. Okay, so I'm going to save it. Okay, so this is good. This is the function. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to just change our main. Okay, so right now we have added these 2 lines of code where we are just executing that extract Python code from the response, feeding into the generated response value, right? And then we are saying, then we are just seeing whether, the generated code is in a form which can be executed or not. Okay, so just save it and run. We can just put try and catch and all those kind of funny stuff, but that is not something which we should cover in this very first part. It is just to give you the sense what kind of things we can achieve by writing a very simple programs. Now we can see the generated code, right? Without any Python and all those kind of stuff. Now this looks good. The next thing is what we're going to do is we're going to save this into the Python file so that we can run it, right? But before saving it into the Python file, I just created another program which actually just help us to just run this to ensure that whatever code block we have extracted is working fine or not. So I have just created this sub process, which actually requires the generated code. Python code file name, but since we are using C, it means that we just need to feed in the direct code, right? So here what we have to do is we have to just execute this. So what we can do is we can execute this. We can directly feed in the generated code here, right? So I think we should be good. So what we are doing in step 3, we are executing the generated code to ensure that step 3 executing generated ensure parsing is working without any issue. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's rerun again. So this is how you can just keep adding, whatever the problem you are getting into, right? Now we can see the print is output is 120, right? So we can see output is actually 120. So now what we can do is we can save this file, right? So for saving, I have already written a simple method again. I'm using a very simple Python code for just executing all these funny stuff, right? So here, if you just see, I'm just opening a file which I want to save, and I'm just gonna call that in my workflow orchestration to just save that. Okay, so let's do it and keep extending our workflow orchestration. Save. So we need to define a code file. So we can do that in the beginning. We can just say code file equals to what the name we want to give. We can say generated code by AI.py. Let's see what happens. So we are going to run this one more time. Okay, so now we can see this file is generated here, and we can see the method is here. It looks like pretty much a simple Python file. It's just executing number 5, which we know that if we just do the factorial for number 5, 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, it's going to be resulting as a 120, right? So we have just wrote a very simple thing, very simple AI agent. What it does is ask, the LLM to generate a Python code. Then we have written a simple parsing method, which actually just extract the Python code block. Then we run it so that we can ensure that, okay, the Python code which we are getting from the large language model is actually working or not, right? And then we are saving into the file. So that's it from my side for this particular video. This is a part 1, and in part 2, we are going to add a more intelligence where we gonna ask large language model, can you review this generated Python code and see whether it is following all the Python standard, which is defined to write a standard Python program along with any kind of vulnerability these codes are having. So until the next video, stay healthy, keep learning on new things. And if you have any feedback or suggestion, please feel free to put that into the comment section. And if you have some more better idea which you want me to cover in the tutorial series, please let me know in the comment section. I would love to implement that AI agent which can fulfill, the use case you have for the AI agent. And please like, share, and subscribe for this video. And thank you once again.